everybody, Coach Mills here, coming at you with a brand new Valorant video. And in this video, I'm going to be breaking down the 10 things that I would love to see in Valorant in 2021. And this is going to be a combination of abilities I think would be insane to have in the game, ultimates, gun changes, map changes, balance, and needed additions that would 100% make Valorant a better game. So we're going to be breaking all that down right now, but go to the GameLeap website in the links down below for high quality advanced guides. If you want to climb to Immortal and beyond this competitive act, do yourself a favor, go check it out in the links down below because we have in-depth advanced guides over every single agent, weapon, game mode. It doesn't matter, we got it. Go check it out on the GameLeap website right now. But without further ado, let's jump into the video. Now, the first thing that I wanted to talk about is actually abilities that I think would be amazing additions to the game. Now, right off the bat, I'm not going to talk about anything crazy overpowered. I'm just talking about abilities that I think would create really cool gameplay and would be fun to have in the game altogether. So don't expect some crazy stuff like being able to fly or whatever the case may be. Now, the first ability that I think would be really amazing to have in the game is an ability that allows you to grab guns or even the spike from a distance. If it's in your LOS, maybe you could grab it and pull it into you and you get that gun out of nowhere. Think of this like a force pull or something like that, but basically you would have like a highlighting system, and if you kill someone or if someone's died, if there's a spike or whatever pretty far away, you could grab it and bring it in and it would literally fly to you. Now, I think this would be really cool, not having to traverse from long distances away in order to either grab a spike or grab a weapon. Maybe you and multiple allies kill someone on pistol round, they have a rifle, y'all have pistols, you could grab it without having to cross, and then you could use it to secure the space pushing forward. I don't think this would be overpowered at all, but you would probably have to balance things like distance and LOS, because I could see it getting really strong if you could kill an opera from very far away and yoink the operator away from the enemy. That might be a little bit overpowered, but I definitely think you could balance this ability in a way that would be really fun and create cool gameplay moments. Now, the next ability is the one that you might have never heard of, because very few of you have probably ever heard of the genre Call of Duty, but it's Scavenger. And Scavenger's a really cool passive that you could have on an agent, and basically it's just ammo alteration. Just like maybe in free-for-all where you get a kills and get ammo, imagine how powerful that would be in a game as a passive. Now, of course, you would have to balance the character appropriately, because I could see scenarios where it's freaking crazy overpowered, like you're rocking an Odin or something, you're just spraying non-stop and just getting reload after reload after reload, but even that has counters, and I think you could balance the character in a way to make it not completely overpowered. Now, that being said, you could actually go a different route with it. Maybe give yourself a passive reload, maybe something like Apex, where slowly your ammo gets refilled over time. Or you could have it to where it's like traditional Scavenger, where you walk over bodies and get ammo. I'm not entirely sure how to balance this, but I think it would be really cool to not have to worry so much about ammo on a character and make that the central theme of a new agent. But let me know what you think about this ability in the comments down below and how you would personally balance it. Now, I'm going to the next ability I really want to talk about, and this one's a little bit balls deep if I'm being honest, but I love the concept of this, and it's the Eco God ability. So imagine this, you're on a battlefield and maybe there's a whole bunch of extra guns around. What you could do is you could pick up a gun like a rifle and you could literally crush it in your hands, and not only would you pocket some cash, probably not the full amount, but partial cash into your account for later, but you would also be able to use the scrap metal of the gun and it could be absorbed as armor, and the amount of armor and the amount of money would be different on guns. Maybe you get half of the gun's value in money, and maybe depending on the type of gun, you get certain amounts of armor. Like an LMG would give you a full set of armor, maybe an op would give you 40, rifles would give you 30, whatever the case may be, but you could just go around and scrap these guns, grab some armor, and maybe generate some money for later on in other rounds. So I think it could be a pretty cool ability if you balanced it correctly. You would have to change maybe how much cash you got depending on how powerful this was, but it's definitely an ability that I think would be really cool to look at and see. And you could probably make an entire character around the concept of being an eco goblin. Now, moving on to the next ability I wanted to talk about. This one's pretty simple. It's just dead silence. You pop it and maybe for like 2 or 3 seconds, you're completely silent. Whether you're jumping, maybe even whether you're shooting, not entirely sure if that would be overpowered, but running, jumping, whatever you want to do, you're completely silent. Now, this is, in my opinion, what Yoru should have had, because I think this is way better for lurking than making fake noises instead of just making no noises. But I do imagine that this would get really powerful if you allow it to last too long. So I'm really suggesting like a very small time frame where dead silence is a thing. Or imagine if it's a passive that gets triggered on a kill. You get a kill on an enemy, and for the next 2 or 3 seconds, you're completely silent, whatever you want to do. So maybe that follow-up kill, you're silent, or you kill and reposition, and you can't get heard in that time frame. I don't know exactly how you would balance this like usual, but I do think that this would be an amazingly cool ability to have in the game, and it would definitely create an alert god that I think Yoru probably wanted to fill, but I do think that this would actually be just better in general. But like I said, let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. Now for the last ability that I wanted to talk about in this video, something that is used in a lot of games, I mean, the list goes on, from Halo to Apex, whatever, and it's just decoy. Having a character that could either run a straight line or stand still, whatever you want him to do, you could have a decoy that does that. And I know that this is an idea from a lot of other games, but I think it has a specifically unique place in a game like Valorant. Imagine just posting up in a close angle, just leaving like a decoy just standing there. An enemy would see that, freak out, and flick to kill it. You would get information, you could set up a cross play with yourself, and it would just be really cool. I think you could get information by throwing a person running down. Maybe you had a way to change how he acted and what he did, similar to something like Apex. Not entirely sure how that would actually be implemented, but I do think the idea of having a decoy could be good for information, good for setting up plays, and I really like the idea overall for Valorant, and I would love to see a character have something like this. Now moving on to ultimates, I only have 2 ultimates that I wanted to talk about, but I do think that these are really cool, and they're stolen from other games, of course, but I do think that they have a very unique place specifically in Valorant that would be really fun. The first one is an ultimate that lets you teleport straight to an ally. Now, I remember doing this back when I used to play console Smite, but this is also an ability in League of Legends and pretty much any MOBA. You see an ally, you use your ultimate, and you pop right onto them. Now, for rotation's sake, that could be really, really cool to do. Like, maybe an ally is holding and he's starting to get rushed. You just teleport right on top of him and you're there to help him. Now, maybe it's not the most powerful ultimate in the world, but you could balance it by not making it that much cost, maybe like 5 or 6. But really, I think it's actually super sick because I just love the idea of just surprising an enemy. Maybe the enemy knows that there's only one person there, and then out of nowhere, there's 2 people there, and they're like, what the hell? And they get double swung. I think it's really cool potential for this ability, and I would love to see it, honestly. And then the second ultimate that I think would be really cool is something like Fire Cell. And what this would be is an ultimate that you could literally use before the round is over, actually. It would have to be really expensive, like 7 or 8, maybe even 9. But essentially, it would be an ultimate that you could activate in the pre-round and make everything in the store half off for your entire team. Now, maybe half off would be too much, maybe like 20% off. I don't know how to balance it. Like, this is just an idea on paper, but I think it'd be really cool to have a character that can help you economy-wise, and I think that there's not a lot of abilities that can affect that right now, but I would love to see it in the same way that I talked about the Eco God ability in the previous section in abilities. Now moving on to the guns. Are there any different guns or gun changes that I would like to see? Well, first off, I don't really want to see that many guns. I'm fine with the gun selection that we have now, and I don't really think that Riot's going to change it. But if I was going to change something balancing about guns, I would make it so different types of weapons slow at different rates and at different ranges. For instance, I don't think that the slow on something like an SMG should be the same as the slow for something like a rifle. It's a completely different caliber. It's a completely different round that's hitting you. One has more bulk, and I know that this would balance, change everything across the board, but I think it would make a lot more sense if things that hit harder actually slowed you more, and things that didn't hit as hard didn't slow you as much. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think range should affect that as well. Maybe even where you get shot, not entirely sure about that one. But I know that this might make the game unnecessarily more complicated, which I know that Valorant as a whole is trying to simplify things instead of making it more complicated, so I don't know if they would ever do this. But I think from a balance perspective, if you could tweak these numbers, it could make things feel a lot more fair. Yes, maybe that Stinger could run and gun, right? It has that advantage, but it's not gonna slow you down as much if you get shot by it, so you have some time to get away from it, which, because it's not gonna one-shot you, that actually matters. And I kind of like that environment, I kind of like that idea, but I want to know what you think about that in the comments down below. And then the last thing, if I was talking about guns, maybe if we did have a new gun, I think it would be kind of cool to have a projectile gun in there somewhere. I don't know what it would be. I don't know if it'd be like a crossbow or something. Maybe that doesn't have a place in a game like Valorant, but we have no projectile guns as is, and I think it'd be cool to have some sort of projectile guns. But I understand, maybe an attack shooter, we don't want projectiles, and I know that there's a lot of problems when you add projectiles in a game, like it not actually doing the damage it's supposed to, getting no regs. You get a ton of no regs with Hanzo so in a game like Overwatch. So maybe they never want to add that into Valorant. I'm not entirely sure, and I don't really know how I feel about this idea as well. Now moving on to the maps, I wanted to talk about maps really quickly. As far as maps, like in general, like added to competitive, I don't really have any opinions about that. I'm not a map designer. I don't know what would be good or bad. I just know when I like a map, when I play it, and when I don't. Maybe a little bit less verticality and less angles, like from Icebox. But the more I play Icebox, the more I learn to appreciate it overall. Now, what I would love is a close range map specifically designed for free-for-all. It feels like none of the maps that exist right now are made for free-for-all at all. You're playing on freaking Ascent and you spawn back in attacker's spawn. You have to walk like the Valley of Death, where someone's gonna spawn behind you while you're pushing up, and you could get peeked from a number of angles and enemies know you're there. It's just a freaking nightmare. I would love a design free-for-all map so that doesn't happen and things just feel more smooth overall. The spawns are more smooth. I would really appreciate that overall in the game. Now, what I would love, and I think we need, is one-for-one maps. We need one-for-one maps, and I think the best way to do that is to custom maps. Have it so people can make their own custom maps, because I want to practice 1v1 pistols, 1v1 rifles on a map like you do in CS. Can't do that in Valorant. Would be a lot of fun to have a ton of 1v1s. I know we would love to watch it on stream. You know, have streamers bet $50 or $500 or whatever the case may be to 1v1 each other. I think that'd be really cool, and I would love to see that in the future. Now, moving on to balance, the only thing that I really think needs to be balanced about this game, because I think the game is pretty balanced right now. It feels really good overall. I think they've tweaked things in the appropriate ways. The new character is not completely busted, but it's still really strong. And they're going to be buffing Yoru and Viper down the line pretty soon in patch 2.06 or 2.07, so we could expect to see that. But the balance I would definitely change is about pistol round. And specifically, two characters, in my opinion, changed pistol round way too much, and that's Reyna and Killjoy. Now, I understand that that might be the strength of these characters, and maybe Riot wants to keep it that way, but honestly, having the turret and pistol round be something that is so powerful that people just want to rotate off of it. They don't even want to fight it, because you're going to take like anywhere from 20 to freaking like maybe 70 damage or more between all the characters, and you're going to be slowed and all that stuff. And then Reyna is a character that you just have to play so very scared against on pistol round, and especially in rank, she feels sometimes unstoppable when she can go all the way up to that 150. Maybe you should cap it on pistol round, not entirely sure, but I do think that maybe Riot should look at these two characters specifically on pistol round, because they changed the entire course of pistol round in my opinion, a negative way. Now, moving on to the needed additions for the game. These are just general things that I think we need for the game that would just make the game far better, period. The first one's a VOD reviewer. I've said that a million times. I want to look at VODs. I want to be able to analyze, look back at people, do VOD reviews, watch pro matches from different people's point of view. Whatever, I think we need it 100%, and I think most of y'all agree with that. Now, I would love more crosshair options. I feel like our crosshair options are limited overall. We do have some options, but we really only have a base amount that we can create. We can't create crazy stuff like circles or triangles or whatever, and I do like having more flexibility, and I think that that's probably something pretty easy to implement, but I'm not entirely sure. Now, the last thing is just a better training range. We should not be having to go to outside platforms like Aim Labs or whatever. I know that Valorant themselves partnered with Aim Labs, but we shouldn't have to do that in order to practice what we want to practice with our aim. We want to practice the recoil control, the weapons, the characters, everything in game, and there should be ways that we could do that in game. Training rooms with dynamic customizable bots, maybe even in addition to custom maps, you could make an entire training course. People shouldn't have to do the Sage res glitch in order to practice shooting against real people on an obstacle course. I think most people can agree with that, and I would love for them to add something in the future to just make it better for us to train and get better. And I think most of us generally agree on that as well. But tell me what ability you like the most in the comments down below, and which one you most disagreed with, as well as what ability you would make if you were the head developer at Valorant. And then tell me what other changes you want in Valorant. Is there any big thing that you think needs to be addressed? I really want to know your opinion about all that in the comments down below. And then go to the GameLeap website for high quality in-depth guides, tips and tricks, agent courses. We got so much on the GameLeap website. You got to go check it out right now in the links down below. But I really hope you enjoyed the video. I love your faces. I'm Coach Mills, and I'll see you tomorrow.